Hi, I'm Dylan, and this video series is on how to make a Pathfinder character. Now, if you missed the first and second videos on how to pick your race and other thematical things, and how to pick your class, you might want to check those videos out. This video is going to be on how to roll for your stats and how to apply those to various areas of the character sheet. So, let's begin. Alrighty, so for this video, we're going to be wanting the notepad and pencil more than anything else. So we're going to be rolling to fill in this section of the page here. So what we're going to need is 4 six-sided dice, and you're just going to want to roll those, all of them, and then take out the smallest one and add the remainder up, so 6, 9, and 11. And then what you want to do is you want to take that score and you want to write it down. So 11. You want to do this 7 times. I'm going to do that off screen. Okay, so I got my 7 scores here. Now what you're going to want to do is, out of the 7 scores, find the smallest and cross it out. Now for my guys, I also like to allow my players to move 1 score from any one of these numbers to any one of the others. Now, you want to try and make even numbers with this, because it's even numbers that will change your modifier, which I'll get to in a moment. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this 13, turn it into a 12, and then turn this 11 into a 12 also. You might want to take a little more thought into doing it. I just did that to show you guys an example. Now what you want to do is you should have 6 numbers here now. And so take those numbers and put them into the ability score box, which is on the left side of these empty boxes here. And place them wherever you'd like. So because I am playing as a warrior, I'm going to want my dwarf to be a little tanky, so I'm going to put my best score in Constitution, which governs health, and my best score was 17. And you can allocate these differently depending on what class you were. If you want to be a little more damaging, throw in strength. If you want to be able to shoot bows or jump around, dexterity. Intelligence is more for wizards and getting knowledge on things. Wisdom, I think, is sorcerer. Charisma is paladin, and talking to people and making them like you a lot more is for charisma. So place them wherever, like highest number where you really want to shine, and lowest number where you're maybe not so good. Okay, I have it all filled out now. I had a lot of 12s, unfortunately, so my decisions were pretty limited. Now that we have this filled in, take a look at what we wrote down in the first session video. You see, dwarves get +2 to Constitution, +2 to Wisdom, and -2 to Charisma. So now throw those into the modifiers. Okay, now you can see that my stats have changed. My Constitution went from 17 to 19, my Wisdom score went from 12 to 14, and my Charisma went from 14 to 12. So you may want to take note of those adjustments while allocating your scores. Now, finally with this, what we want to do is figure out what the modifiers for each of these scores are. And so a modifier is +1 for every 2 ability scores above 10, and -1 for every 2 ability scores below 10. And so what we have here is this one will be 1, this one will be 0, so as I said earlier, I don't like writing in 0. This one will be 4, this one will be 1, 2, and 1. I was pretty fortunate in that I didn't get any of my ability scores under 10. However, if you do happen to have 1 or 2 of your ability scores under 10, if you, like, say, rolled a 9 for one of your stats, the modifier would be -1. And if you rolled an 8, it would still be -1, but then if you rolled a 7, it would be -2. And for every 2 below 10, it goes into the negatives. If more than 2 of your skills are below 10, ask your DM if you can re-roll, otherwise your character is going to be broken and won't be able to do anything. Now what we want to do is go back and adjust everything that it runs off of these scores. So first off, I'm going to adjust my HP. Now every time you gain health, you roll the dice, except the first time where you immediately get the best score you possibly can, in my case 10, and then you add your constitution to that score. So my constitution is 4, which means that I get to increase my health by 4. And every turn after this, I'll also be able to increase whatever my score is by 4. So, for example, say I just got to level 2, I would take a d10, it's a 10-sided dice. On a 10-sided dice, 0 represents 10, by the way. And I would roll it. So I got 10, and I would gain another 14 from this, because I would gain 10 plus 4. Next, we're going to pick our skills. So you'll see under class skills, it says fighters gain 2 skill ranks per level plus intelligence modifier. So we're going to go over, check our intelligence modifier. Mine is 1, which means I gain 3 skill ranks every turn, or every time I level up. So what that looks like is you go over to your skills, and you pick the skills you want, and you put 1 in the right-hand category. So say I want my dwarf to be fairly survivable. I'm going to throw 1 in under ranks. I'm going to throw 1 under survival. Now, here, this skill is based off of wisdom. So I gotta check my wisdom modifier, which is 2, and I throw that under the ability modifier category. Now, one more thing is this is a class skill. If you put ranks into a class skill, you actually get 3 on the first rank. So I put 1 rank in. This is the first rank I put into this skill, so I get an additional 3 to this skill. This applies to any other class skills that you have, but only the first time you put a rank in it. So for instance, I don't gain plus 3 to craft because I don't have a rank in it, or climb. When you're picking your skills, you may want to look up what they do before actually putting ranks into them. So go onto Pathfinder OGC and just look up the name of the skill, or go into the rulebook. It has an entire chapter on what all of the skills do. Just, do a little bit of research before allocating your skills. They are pretty straightforward for the most part, but, just to make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. Another thing that these ability scores will change is the languages you know. One thing I forgot to show you when we were doing races is what languages you start out with. So each race will tell you what languages you start with. For dwarves, they start off speaking Common and Dwarven. Common pretty much everyone can speak, and Dwarven only dwarves can speak. But with a high intelligence score, they can also learn Giant, Gnome, Goblin, Orc, Terran, and Undercommon. Now, these are all languages that may be spoken by various monsters or creatures that you find on your adventures. So, what it means by with a high intelligence score, you can choose from the following. That means for every ability modifier in your intelligence, you get to pick one of these other languages. And so, my dwarf has an intelligence modifier of 1, so I can pick one more language to have other than the 2 base languages that all dwarves know. I think I'm going to pick Giant. You may also remember Fortitude, Reflex, and Will from the class selection episode. Now here we have ability modifier area right there for scoring, and so each one has a different ability that will increase it. So Fortitude is Constitution. So my Constitution modifier is 4, so I'm going to put 4 under the ability modifier. Reflex is Dexterity, which I have none, and Will is Wisdom, which I have 2. Now you can add all of this up and put it in the far left. Now we're going to fill out AC as best as we can. You're not going to be able to fully fill this out until we actually purchase armor, but you can fill out Dex modifier and size modifier. So Dex, as you can guess, is from here. I have 0 Dex, thus I won't be able to put anything there. And also size modifier, medium-sized creatures don't get any size modifier, but small creatures get to add 1 to their size modifier. So if I was a small creature, I would be able to put a 1 under size. Another thing that runs off of dexterity is initiative. Now, initiative determines turn order when you enter combat. You just throw your dexterity modifier in there, which, as has been stated several times, I have none, unfortunately. But you would throw, if you had any dex modifier, you would throw it under dex modifier, and then that would be your initiative score. So you would add that to the dice whenever you rolled to see who went first in combat. Alrighty, we'll also be wanting to fill out combat maneuver bonus and combat maneuver defense. Now here you want to fill out your base attack bonus, which for fighters is 1. Also your strength modifier, which for me is also 1. And then your size modifier. Now, for medium-sized creatures, you almost never have anything under size modifier. But if you were a small creature, you would actually get a -1 there. And so now I have a total of 2 to my combat maneuver bonus. Now, combat maneuver defense is pretty much the same thing. Base attack bonus, plus strength modifier, plus dexterity modifier, which I have none, plus size modifier, which for small creatures would be -1, plus 10. So my combat maneuver defense is 12. Okay, now we're going to take a look at feats. We didn't get to fill out all of the character stuff on class because we hadn't looked at feats yet, but now we're going to take a look at these. These are probably the more personalized part of character creation, because it doesn't matter what class you are, you have access to all of the feats. And so this is where your personal flair really comes out in your character, is in what feats you choose. So at level 1, everyone gets a feat. At level 1 and at level 4 and every 3 levels after that, you get a new feat. Fighters get a bonus feat, and so do monks and probably more characters. But no matter what your class sheet says, you always get to pick 1 feat at level 1, 4, and then every 3 levels after that. As you can see here, there are a ton of different feats to choose from. These are just 2 pages that only have the names and prerequisitions of each feat. And on the website there are so many more, so you may want to take a little time in choosing what feat you're going to pick for level 1, and in the case of fighters and monks, what additional feats you might want. One thing you might want to take note of is both the benefit, which is what the feat does, that's probably the major thing, and also what the prerequisite is. So for example, exotic weapon proficiency. You need a base attack bonus of 1 in order to be able to take this feat. If you don't have a base attack bonus of 1, you can't take this feat. Some feats have other prerequisites, such as a certain skill score that you need in order to be able to get this feat, or a certain ability score, or even other feats. Once you've chosen your feat or feats, you're going to want to write them down in the feats category on the second page of your Pathfinder character sheet. And you want to write them down in a similar way that you wrote down your special abilities, in an abbreviated form with the name at the beginning. And that's that. You now have the majority of your character sheet filled out. Next video is going to be on purchasing equipment and getting starting gold, and then your character should be done. But until then, I hope you learned something, and have a good one.